Thank you. Thank you very much to Open Space for bringing me here. I'm really happy to be on Vancouver Island. My project is called Beautiful Possibilities. In 2006, I traveled across the United States. You can see the map. This is the map that I start with, and it's also what I continue all my projects with, looking for lost and hidden histories. When I was growing up, we were taught this Native American history and European American history as two separate histories. And yet in my own family, it was about the integration of two separate histories. That my father was born on an Indian reservation, but his father was put into Indian schools, and there really wasn't that culture, but there was this lingering intermixing of things. So there was an appreciation from that when I was really young. So I know I was always, and my family has always been interested in those things. So I wanted to go out searching for more examples of those kinds of history. Especially, I had been a painter for many years, 15 or 20 years, and never thought of myself as a painter. I'm like, I'm doing this, it's fine. There was just a set of circumstances that led me to being a painter. And I thought it's not a bad skill to learn. It's fine, I'll do it. But I didn't like the cloistered life of a painter, working in my studio and working on a very esoteric vocabulary that nobody really understood. And then it would go into a gallery, this rarefied air, and then somebody would buy the painting and it would go into somebody's home. And that really, I'm like, that kind of pain to take to do a painting, because I never really felt like a painter, wasn't very satisfying work. And even though I'm a very introverted person, my fantasies are so. So in 1999, I had a big exhibition of painting. It took me 10 years to do. I would spend up to 6 months on one painting. I'm like, okay, I've done this. I've proved that I have discipline. And I'm ready to move on to what I'm supposed to be. And I didn't know what that was supposed to be, but I always had a desire to have a roadside attraction. That seemed like the best way to explain what I wanted. I could live out in nature, which is kind of my desire, and kind of do my own thing, but I love strangers. And I love a new influx of people. So I thought if I could build something, people would come to me, I would have that flow of change in my static world. But I didn't have any property, and I didn't know what I wanted to have on my roadside attraction. So I thought I would do just the opposite. I would build a space and take it on the road. So for several years, I had a roadside show and tell. It was a 10 by 10 tent. And I could do different projects. I could experiment with different social ways of interaction. At first, I put a painting in a cabinet, and I would do surveys, how you would be doing. I worked on collaborating with people. I'd invite people into my 10 by 10 tent to do different projects. But what it really allowed me to do was to go into neighborhoods I wouldn't normally go into and interact with people I wouldn't normally interact with. And it was always rewarding to do that. And there's always also something really great about interacting with strangers is you don't have to bring your history with you. You're just there. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to bring it forward to another circle of people. It's just a one-on-one interaction, and there's a real openness to it. So there's these interesting interactions of like people opening up, and it's very thrilling. And so in 2006, I was ready to take, after doing it for 2 years, I'm from San Francisco. I grew up in Texas, but for 2 years I was doing it in the Bay Area, going to different neighborhoods, doing these projects. I was ready to go on the road, which was where would I want to live? Where would I want my roadside attraction? And what would I want that roadside attraction to be? So if you look on this map, the pink line was the route I took. I was on the road for 8 months. And I took the 10 on the road and then retired of it really, really quickly. Because in San Francisco is a real pedestrian culture, much like Victoria. But you get over in the interior of the states and everybody's into their cars. And it's really hard to get people out of their cars, and the sidewalks really aren't functional anymore. And it wasn't very productive. I'd set up this tent. It took me half an hour to set up on my own. And then I had to wait around for people, and those interactions were great, but not productive. And I thought, well, I'd have better luck just inserting myself in people's lives. So I got myself a set of cards. started show and tell, and somehow that made me official, and then there was a way to enter people's life. And out of that, I became interested in the hidden and lost histories. And when I came back, I started this series of banners retelling American history and integrating kind of lost and hidden histories as if we weren't two separate histories, but it was one continuous history. And so I'm mixing eras and contemporary and historic figures to tell a story about how we view culture today. I'm always on the lookout, and so now I'm going back on the road. A beautiful possibility to me is these interactions and who we are. We have so many different mixes of culture. There's a precedent for everyone. And all our weird characteristics, we could all be a superstar. And we all have something to tell. And we all have some interesting viewpoints. Because looking back at a lot of lost and hidden histories, there's people with bizarre ideas that really carry them forward. And we don't know about them. It's amazing what people have done. And I would like to think that that's our culture, and not really some homogenized box culture way of looking at the world. You know, the whole melting pot, we melt down into this homogeneous mass. So you see the still and the melting pot a lot throughout the banners. I think I'm rambling. but in part of the history, there's all sorts of hidden histories that I'm interested in. And one of them is the American traveling show. So when I was researching the medicine show, which was when you think of people settling these new cultures, especially same with up here in Canada on the western coast, you know, these medicine shows coming in were sometimes people's first exposure to art. There were these graphics and there was music that were there to bring people in. But it was also to sell a product, and it was also awakening your desire for something. And so there's a lot of interesting culture that I'm interested in. But in researching the medicine show, I came across an ailment known as Americanitis. And it was first recognized in the mid-1800s in Rexall. And Rexall is big up here. It's very different. Rexall originally was a medicine company that was coming out of the medicine show era and kind of going into being regulated. And when you look at the name, it really kind of brings it out. Rex meant king of all. Rex, all, was king of all. And my mother grew up in the Rexall. Her father worked in the Rexall company. He was a compound medicine. And up here, you don't see many Rexalls down in the States, but I know Rexall is now a company up in here, and I think they do compound medicines. So I don't really know what the real evolution was, how it got to here. But anyway, Rexall put out an Americanitis elixir in the 1890s. And I was really fascinated by that because I recognized it immediately. I was like, oh, because my sister and I are always talking about the American disease, how we suffer from it. And so I recognized it, and I thought, I bet other people can recognize this. So I developed a survey, and I hope you will all, or at least some of you, will fill it out, because I really wanted a Canadian perspective on Americanitis. So it's just an opinion survey. Is it a recognizable ailment today? And what those symptoms might be, and all that. So over here is the Americanitis survey station. Up on you can see a book that's mounted in the plexiglass in case you're doubting my sincerity. And there is a book that was written in 1925 on Americanitis, High Pressure Life. Really good. It's kind of amazing when you start reading it. I'm like, wow, this is just like new talk, you know.
The author?
Sandler. Something Sandler.
Is it contagious?
I think so. I don't know. Canadians might have a perspective on that. I'm looking at, but I'm also still looking for the lost and hidden histories. I think there's more stories I want to continue the banner series, and there's more stories I want to tell. So I'm looking for lost and hidden histories of Vancouver Island.